Hi friends, it's Claire from ScrappyNerdUK and I am back with a process video, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make two different types of mini albums. And for this I'm going to use the Freckled Fawn kit. This is February's kit, and I'm going to use these 6x8 papers which are designed to go into the pocket page inserts, but I'm going to change it up a bit and make them into, or make two mini albums out of this kit. So first of all, I've grabbed some grey board, and I'm just going to apply some tape from my ATG gun just to stick it down initially, and that's not going to hold it permanently, and I didn't want to use wet glue because that sometimes buckles as well. So I'm going to use the ATG just to stick it. So I'm just trimming that paper down, and then I'm just going to bend over the edges so the paper will fold around a lot more easily. And this is definitely one of my favourite papers in the kit, the wood grain. I thought I'd make a lovely outer cover for my mini album. Now if you don't have grey board or chipboard, then you can use, to be fair, you could use anything. So if you've got some old cardboard packaging, then trim that down. This is a 5x5 size. So if you wanted a similar size, then yeah, just trim something down to 5x5 and you'll need two of them. You could use old cereal cartons as well, so cut those up. They're a bit sturdier. They're not as thick as grey board, but they are a bit sturdier, and you do exactly the same process as what I'm doing here. So I've put red line tape on the edges, and I'm just going to peel all of that off. And then my my overlapping papers will then just stick onto that. Oh, I did trim the corners as well. It does help to stop all the paper buckling when you try and fold it all in. Otherwise you just end up with too much paper in the corners and it looks awful. So if you just trim off the edges, and then you get this nice almost mitered corner. And all I'm doing here is just using a bone folder to press down that corner to help it sit in nicely when I go round and do the next side. There we are. And then don't worry too much about how this is looking. Now there are a couple of options that you could do here. I'm going to cover mine with another pattern paper, but you could always paint the inside if you wanted to cover it. Just make sure that all of those bits of the overlapping paper, make sure they make sure they're firmly stuck down, sorry. You wouldn't want any of those coming up if you're going to decide to paint it. Now I'm going to actually cover mine with pattern paper anyway, so I'm going to follow the same process here with the red line tape around the outside, and then I will pop some ATG tape just on the middle just to help the middle bit of the pattern cardstock stick. There we are. And I've trimmed this to 4 7/8 by 4 7/8, and it will totally depend on the size of your chipboard or your cardboard inner. You could use the corrugated cardboard from boxes. You could use that as well. It isn't as stable as grey board, but if you're looking for something a bit thicker, a bit more like a padded and a bit more stable mini album, then yeah, there's lots of things you could use. So I'm just lining up then. I think it worked out about 1.5 inches and 3.5 inches roughly, I think. Yeah. So that's going to give me 2 even holes in the middle. Now there's a few ways that you could bind this together. You could, I'm going to use book rings, and they're fairly inexpensive to pick up, and they're great to be able to open up quite easily and add in more and more pages. You could use ribbon, and you'll see that on mini album 2 as well. So I'm just then going through the papers, and I'm just going to trim down a couple of the papers to fit. I'm not going to do all of them because you get 8 papers in the kit for the month, and I want to try and save some of the other ones for some other projects as well. So I'm just going to do these as an example because I just wanted to show you some different ways and different ideas of including things in your mini album. So I've trimmed those down to the right size, and I think they're 4 7/8 squared as well, the same size as the inner liner, the pattern paper liner, the purpley with the white dots. And then I'm just I use the cover as my template for where I need to make my holes, and I just use a crocodile, which is great for multiple layers. So here is a super quick, simple mini album that you can put together. This took me about half an hour in total. So it's much quicker on the video because I've sped it up. But yeah, this took me about half an hour, so it doesn't take long at all. And this is a great way to use up paper scraps as well. So I know I've got a whole box full of paper scraps, and this is a great way to cut those down and add them in. I like using the papers from the Freckled Fawn monthly kit. I love the papers in this kit. So I wanted to get those used on this mini album, and they're so sturdy as well. They're really thick cardstock, so it's going to be really durable, especially on my cover of the album. So this bit here, this was just an offcut from one of the papers, from the liner paper there. So I've just stuck it together. Now I have only stuck it together at this stage using a little bit of ATG tape. I don't recommend that. I recommend that you either use red line tape or do something like stitch it, either hand stitch or chuck it through the sewing machine. So this mini album, I will add photos at a later date. I'm just showing you an example here. There's a little pocket. It was so super quick and easy to do that, and then it's a great place to add photos. Yeah, so I'm gonna decide on what event I want to use this mini album for. But I can make a start on it by prepping it, adding extra pages and all sorts in, ready for me to add photos and some extra embellishments. So I'm just I've grabbed a tag out of my stash, and I probably will add a couple of tags in here, and this is a great way to add some different sized elements, add doilies as well. So this is quite you'd find doilies like this, to me it just reminds me of them being in a junk journal, but there's no reason you can't add doilies into this sort of album as well. And here I found a glassine bag in my stash, and I think it's probably been in my stash a couple of years, so it's nice to actually get it put into a mini album, and it will make a great little pocket as well. So those go in there. And this glassine bag's a little bit too tall, but all I'm going to do is just trim that top, and it's literally the perfect width to go in to this mini album. And then I'm just going to refold the top, so I'm going to make my own top on there. I'm going to use a couple of the embellishments because I want to make a start on the decorating of the album, so when it comes to adding photos in, then I'll already be part of the way there with my decoration, and also it's a chance to use some of the bits from the same kit as well, so it all ties into, all the colours tie in together perfectly. So I'm using some of that washi, that's my favourite washi from the kit, and then I'm just going to use one of these chipboard sentiments, and that's going to help to weigh that flap down a little bit, and it's going to give you something to grip hold of when you lift it up. Actually, I think I moved it a little bit further up so it wasn't actually hanging off the edge, but it does help with the weight on the top of the flap to weigh it down a bit. And mini albums are great, so if you've got lots of photos from one event, then mini albums are great. Now I am a stickler for half starting a mini album and never finishing it, but I am getting better, so I just need a few more big events to use some of these with. You can just put random photos in. You could use them as a travel album. So there's no rules. You can do whatever you like. So here I like to add texture. So here I've just grabbed some pom-pom trim, and if you've got any lace trim or even ribbon, you can give that a go as well. And I've just stuck some red line tape on the edge of the page, and I've just added some little pom-pom trim, and more of that pom-pom trim will make it on to or into the book as and when I add in some more bits and bobs. So I think that's pretty much. I'm just going to pop a label sticker on the front as well, and I will keep these supplies with this mini album, so when I come to add the photos, I know that it's these supplies that I've used, and it'll all tie it in together. And I'm really sorry about my light you can see on my mat there. I haven't found a filming solution for that yet, so apologies if that is distracting. Yeah, so this is just an idea of things you can include. The fact that the rings make it so easy to be able to add things in and move things around. Next I'm going to work on, this is mini album number 2. This is a really super quick mini album. So this wood piece is from February's kit. So you get the outer bit and you also get the heart inner bit as well. So what I'm doing here is I'm just using some Tim Holtz Distress Oxide inks, and I can't stop myself from using rainbows. So I'm just using the colours in rainbow order, and I'm using, these are like makeup blending brushes, but they work great for blending ink as well. So I've only got 5, so I'm just having to put up with using one for a couple of colours, and I'm not too precious about that. So just going in with each of the colours and just blending them together. Now one thing, you can do this on any wood veneer, so it doesn't necessarily need to be this. Do try this technique on other wood veneer as well. So if you're not a massive fan of the wood colour, or it's not going to work with your layout, then don't be scared to get your inks out and colour them and alter them and give it a go. So this does need to set for a little while because the ink does sit wet on it for, well, not completely wet, but I did have ink on my hands, so you do need to let it set to one side to completely dry. You can blast it with a heat gun, that will always speed up the process. And then I decided to add white, just some plain white cardstock for my pages for this one. And then I'm just going to punch those holes into my pages, and this is where I'm going to show you. So I've got some book rings out there. I did change it back from the ribbon to the book rings, and then I tied the ribbon onto the book rings. So the ribbon's okay. You do need to get the tightness pretty spot on, because if you do it too tight, then it's really hard to flip the pages. So you just need to have a play around with how tight you tie the knot of your ribbon if you are going to bind it by using ribbon. So I'm just threading through. So I just pulled some ribbon from my stash in colours that I'd used. It would have been nice if I could have used all, is it 5, 6 or 7 colours that I used, but I only have these ones in this colour, but it works fine. So yeah, you can see there I'm just got a little bit of ink on my hands. See, that works well. As soon as I add the other one in, it's just because I did it up a little bit too tight, but it works perfectly fine. So just loosen it off a little bit before you completely tighten it. And this is the album pretty much finished. So if you have enjoyed this mini album tutorial, then I would appreciate you giving the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new, and if you are interested in any of the products, then I will leave a link in the comment section down below for you to go and take a look, and I'll see you next time. Bye.